Hi everyone, Sheryl here. So I'm here today to start the tutorial process for making my vintage album. This one, the pages themselves measure 9.5 by 7. The album is 10.5 by 7.5. So let me flip through this really quickly so I can just remind you guys, because this was about maybe 2 months, maybe almost 3 months ago now that I created this, but I believe it was right about 2 months ago. So again, I'm not going to be able to get all of this in frame, and this is just going to be just a quick overview. So it flips like this and flips up like this. All of the base pages have a tag at the top. There's a waterfall page here that's held together by this magnet belly band, but itself is a belly band. You can put pieces, a tag underneath it as well. This is a flip pocket here, so that you can house pictures. It also flips over like so because it hides a pocket right here. You can flip it over. These two pockets turn independently of each other, and then there's another pocket right here. There's two of these pockets, one here and then another one right here, and then it starts itself over again. So there are 6 base pages, and then on the inside covers there are crisscross pockets. Okay, so this album right here is going to take a little bit of time to complete. Just to warn you guys, this particular album, I use the Time Travelers stack by Prima, as well as the Stationer's Desk by Prima. I used 2 A4s and then 2 6x6s, and I only had minimal paper left in doing this. So if you guys decide to go that route in creating this album using Prima, just be warned, you are going to need 2 A4s and then 2 6x6s because it is pretty paper intensive. Okay, so you're also going to need, for your base pages, depending on which one you use, a 12 by 12 stack of base paper, as well as the 8.5 by 11 base paper. I used, for this one, as well as the one that I'm going to do the tutorial on, I use the Hobby Lobby Craft cardstock, which is by the Paper Studio. So you're going to need, again, 12 by 12, a pack of 12 by 12 and a pack of your 8.5 by 11. And the cardstock, and you are going to use a lot of the 8.5 by 11. You're going to use a good amount of the 12 by 12, but definitely a lot of the 8.5 by 11. So just have both ready. All right. So without further ado, considering I am 3 minutes in, let me go ahead and share with you the measurements. So what I did was I went ahead and I started the measurements. I'm going to do the measurements all at once. That way you can go ahead and get them prepped and get them prepared. That way from there we'll be able to go ahead and I can give you the measurements for the paper to mat the paper, and then we can go ahead and get those started. When I create a mini album, I usually do the base pages first, and I mat the base pages and do everything. That way all I have to do is adhere it to the binding, and then adhere the binding to the book, and you know, the spine and everything like that. Because to me it just works out better that way. That way I can make sure that when I measure the amount that I need for the spine, don't have it too big and I don't have it too little. It's just right. All right, so the first thing you're going to need is 6 pieces for the first part of your base page. You are going to need to cut your sheets down to 9.5 by 7. Okay, and you're going to need 6 of these. And that's the first part of your base page. The next part of your base page, which is what's going to make your pocket, as well as the part that's going to adhere to your spine, you're going to need 6 of those, and that's going to be 10 by 7.5. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you're going to score at a 1/2 inch on one short side, and then a 1/2 inch on one long side. And then for the part where your pieces connect, where the score lines connect, you're going to turn around and cut an extra sliver when you're cutting that out, so you form a wide V like so. And you're going to do that to each of the sheets. Okay, so 6 sheets of 9.5 by 7, and then you're going to need 6 sheets that measure 10 by 7.5, and you're going to score 1/2 inch on the long side as well as 1/2 inch on the short side, and cut out where it intersects, but also include an extra little V so that way they don't overlap when it's folded. Okay, so that's for your base page. Next, for your flap, which is style 1, you're going to need 2 sheets that measure 5.5 by 7, and then on the 7-inch side you're going to score at 1/2 inch. Okay, and then you'll go ahead and fold your score marks, and then you'll cut your corners on an angle on both sides, so that when it's folded out it looks like this. Alright, so you'll need 2 sheets of those, and then you'll also need 2 sheets that measure 10 3/4 by 6. Sorry about that. For some reason the camera isn't focusing. There we go. Okay, so let me move this lamp a little closer. It seems a little dark, even though it shouldn't be considering it's daytime. But 2 sheets of 10 3/4 by 6, and then what you're going to do on your 6-inch side, you're going to score at 1/2 inch all the way down. And then you're going to turn it on the 10 3/4 side, and you're going to make a score mark at 3 1/4. Alright, so you can go ahead and fold your score marks. One score mark you're going to fold in, the one that's at the 3 1/4, and then for the one that's 1/2 inch, you're going to fold back. And I'll show you why in a second. This one I went ahead and cut because you're going to need 2 of those. What's going to happen is the part that's at the 3 1/4, you're going to go ahead and cut that 1/2 inch off, along with making an angle here as well as making an angle here. And the reason for that is because this is going to fold over like this, because it's going to be the top part of your flap. This piece will fold back, which will be your hinge, and then the piece down at the bottom, this flap here will adhere down here at the bottom, so you can fold this up and this down, and that becomes your pocket. And then here's your hinge with which you can flip it over like so. Okay, so again, you'll need 2 sheets that are at 10 3/4 by 6. Sorry about that, for some reason it didn't want to focus. So 10 3/4 by 6, you're going to score at 1/2 inch on the 6-inch side, and then you're going to score at 3 1/4 inches on the 10 3/4 inch side. Alright, and then you're also going to need 2 sheets that are at 5.5 by 7, and then on the 7-inch side you're going to score at 1/2 inch. Okay, now if you guys don't want to cut this piece off just yet, it's okay, you don't have to, because I left one that I didn't cut. That way I can go ahead and cut it with you guys when I'm doing the tutorial. Okay, next you're going to need your top flap. So there were 2 pieces that were on the top flap, one that flipped to the side and one that flipped up from the top. Alright, so for the one that flips on the side, this measures 7 3/8 by 5.5. I want this to focus. Hold on, guys. That's worse. There we go. 7 3/8 by 5.5. Okay, and then on the 7 3/8 side, you're going to score it at 1/2 inch, and you're going to need 2 of these. Again, you're going to fold your score marks, and then you'll cut your corners here at an angle on those flaps. All right, next you're going to need 2 sheets that are cut at 9 by 6. Okay, and then what you're going to do on the 9-inch side, you're going to turn it, and then you're going to score at 1/2 inch. All right, and when you score that at 1/2 inch, again, go ahead and fold and cut your corners there. All right, so that is for your top flap. Next, we're going to do the waterfall. So I did 2 waterfalls in my book. For each waterfall, you're going to need a sheet that measures 10 1.5 by 5. And what you're going to do is you're going to score at 1/2 inch on the 10.5 inch side. So 1/2 inch here and then 1/2 inch here. And then you'll go ahead and fold your score marks and then also cut your corners here on an angle on both sides. All right. And this is your belly band as well because it lifts up, but it's also to hold your waterfall. All right. And then don't be alarmed because this does seem kind of thin. This will be matted on both sides to give it some weight in order to be able to hold the pieces of paper with the waterfall. All right. So now for your actual pieces for the waterfall, you're going to need 12 sheets that measure 4 by 5. Okay. So with the 4 by 5, you're going to turn the sheet on the 4-inch side and you're going to score at 1/2 inch. And you'll go ahead and fold your score marks and then you'll cut your corners here on each side on an angle. Okay. So again, 12 sheets that are at 4 by 5. Place it on your scoreboard on the 4-inch side and you're going to score it at 1/2 inch. And you'll need 2 sheets of the 10.5 by 5 and you'll score that at 1/2 inch. So if you do 2 waterfalls, 2 of these as well as 24 of the 4 by 5. If you only decide to do 1 waterfall, then you only need 1 of the 10.5 by 5 and 1 set of 12 of the 4 by 5s. Okay. Then you'll also need the band to hold, the belly band to hold the waterfall in place. So what you'll need is you'll need 4 pieces. Excuse me, 4 pieces if you're doing the if you're doing the 2 waterfalls, and those measure 6 by 1.5. And what you're going to do is you're going to score. I didn't do it on these because I forgot. I'll do that later. You're going to score at 1/2 inch on the 1.5 inch side. And you can go ahead and fold that down and then cut your corners on an angle. And again, this is the belly band for the waterfall to hold them in place. Okay. So next, this is going to be for the double pocket. Okay. For this one, you are going to need 2 sheets that measure 8 by 8. Okay. So for the 2 sheets that measure 8 by 8, what you're going to do is you're going to score at 1/2 inch on 3 sides. So keep in mind, this is all 8 by 8, so you know that it's all the same. The dimensions are the same all the way across. So you're going to pick 3 sides and you're going to score at 1/2 inch. So here, 1/2 inch, here 1/2 inch, and here 1/2 inch. You'll go ahead and fold your score marks, and then don't forget to cut your intersecting lines plus that little extra on each side out. So you'll do that on both sides. The top part I have not done. Cut my corners at an angle because I plan to use a decorative border punch to punch that out. Okay, so again, 8 by 8, and then you're going to score at 1/2 inch on each side. Then you're also going to need 2 sheets that measure 8 by 5.5. Okay, and what you're going to do on the 2 sides, keep in mind the 8-inch side has to be your top. Okay, so you're going to leave one of the 8-inch sides fine. The 2 sides that are here, your 5-inch side, you're going to score 1/2 inch here, 1/2 inch here, and then 1/2 inch there. Okay, and so what you'll do is you'll go ahead and fold your score marks and then cut your pieces out right there. And you'll do that on both sides. Again, the top I left. I didn't bother to cut my corners here because I plan to punch a decorative border punch. Okay, so this was the double pocket. Next we have pocket. This probably should be called pocket number 1. Let's see. So for this one, your measurements are going to be 10.5 by 4. and you'll need 2 of these. And then what you're going to do is you're going to score at a 1/2 inch on 3 sides. So a 1/2 inch here, 1/2 inch here, 1/2 inch here. You'll go ahead and fold your score marks, and then you'll cut your corner out on both sides. Okay? So that was pocket number 1. Then we go to your long 2 pockets. So these pockets are the ones that fold independently of each other. So what you're going to need are 2 sheets that measure 9 3/4 by 6 3/4. Okay? And so what you're going to do is you're going to turn it on the 9 3/4 inside. And then you will put score marks at 4 5/8 and then 9 1/4. You'll go ahead and fold your score marks. The last one on the end, you're going to go ahead and cut your angles on your corners so that it folds nicely. And so this becomes your pocket. You can either adhere it on the outside or adhere it on the inside. We'll do that together in one of the next segments of the tutorial. Right now, this one, I just wanted to give you guys the dimensions of what you needed so you can go ahead and cut them out. That way, when I come back with the pieces in order to mat, you'll have that as well. And then we can go ahead and continue on with putting the album together. Okay? So that's this one. So you'll need 2 of those. And then you're also going to need 2 hinges. So for the 2 hinges, they're going to measure... give me 1 second. The hinges will measure 1 by just over 4 1/2. So, for those of you who have the same trimmer as I do, sorry for that glare. So this right here is the 4 1/2 mark. It's that tick mark right there. That's just over 4 1/2. So it's just slightly over 4 1/2 that you're going to cut this. And then you're going to score it in half. So on the 1 inch side, you're going to score it a 1/2 inch. That way you can go ahead and fold it in half, and this becomes your hinge. What you'll do is once you fold it in half, you'll go ahead and cut your corners on an angle on both sides. So this side as well as this side here. So what happens is that your pocket here, when you adhere your pocket, you can go ahead, let me put this on the inside just for the sake of showing you guys. You can go ahead and put this hinge like so, and then when you adhere it down, you're able to move your pocket to the front or to the back, and it's independent. Okay? So again, 2 hinges that are 1 by just over 4 1/2. You're going to score it at a 1/2 inch straight down the middle on the 1 inch side. Fold it over and make sure you cut your corners. And then you're going to need 2 pieces that measure 9 3/4 by 6 3/4. You turn it on its side, and then you'll be able to do your scores at 4 5/8 and 9 1/4. Okay, then the next piece that we have is going to be pocket number 2. Excuse me. So for that one, you're going to need 2 sheets, or should I say 2 pieces, and those will measure 10 3/8 by 6 3/4. And those you're going to score at a 1/2 inch on 3 sides. So a 1/2 inch here, a 1/2 inch here, and a 1/2 inch here. All right, just be sure that the long edge is going to be your top. And again, I plan to punch a decorative border here at the top. I did angle the corners, but that's because I forgot. Otherwise, I wouldn't have bothered, because sometimes when you punch your decorative border, when you angle your corners, sometimes it doesn't always look right, even though it's not seen. It's just sometimes how it looks. So next up, we're going to be cutting some of the tags. Okay, so this tag is a large tag that goes in your base page. So for this one, you're going to need, did I do 6? Yeah, 6 sheets. And those will measure 9 1/4 by 6 1/4. And for these tags, what I did was I punched only the corners. You guys feel free to do whatever it is that you decide to do. If you want to go ahead and punch all the way around so that you have a decorative border all the way around, that's fine as well. I decided I only wanted to do just the corners. So you can use your corner chomper, or you can use your corner punches by Martha Stewart, or any other punches that you guys have. That's totally up to you. Or you don't have to punch your corners at all. That's just all in the way that you decide you want this book to look. Okay, so for the next one, you're going to need, I think I cut out 9 of these, but you can get away with 6 of them. Maybe even a few less than that, but I did 9. But you don't have to do 9. You can do as many of these as you like. This one I'm calling the big tag, and this one the measurements is 6 3/4 by 8 7/8. Okay, and again, this one all I'm planning to do is punch just the corners. All right, so next we have the long large tag. So for this one, I only cut out 2, but again, you can cut out more of these if you want, but I only did 2 of these. And this one measures 6 3/4 by 9 1/8. Okay. Next one is the double pocket tags. Okay, give me 1 second. I need to find my pen. Okay. For this one, you're going to need 2 that measure 6 3/4 by 9. And then you'll need 2 that measure 6 3/4 by 6 3/4. Okay. And again, these are for the double pocket tags. Then for the long 2 pocket tags, those are the ones that flip independently of each other. You will need 4 of these. And these measure 6 1/4 by 4 3/8. Sorry about that. I'm trying to get it to show clearly. There we go. So 4 of these, 6 1/4 by 4 3/8. And again, these will only be punched on the corner. And some of these you don't even necessarily have to use a corner puncher. You can use your corner rounder or whatever it is that you decide to do. All right, and last but not least will be the crisscross pockets. Okay, so for this one, you're going to need 2 sheets that measure 7 3/8 by 6. And what you're going to do is you're going to put it in your trimmer from point to point. Okay? So from point to point like this, like a diamond. And then you will go ahead and cut it from point to point. Once you get done cutting this, it will look just like this. All right? Once you cut it and you get it in half, you'll have 2 sheets. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and score at a 1/2 inch on 2 sides. So 1 long side, 1 short side. And then what I did was I went ahead and I angled my corners here, here, and then right here where they intersected, I went ahead and cut them out. Now, for those of you who aren't comfortable doing this, you know, just like that because of the way I explained it, you don't have to. I still have this sheet that I have to cut from point to point, and then I'll go ahead and walk you guys through how to, what I mean by cutting it from point to point, as well as scoring it at a 1/2 inch on each side. So it's totally fine. You guys don't have to do that right now if you don't want to. If you want to wait, that's fine as well. All right. So that is it for the measurements as far as the base pages and the pockets and the things like that go. The things that we have left, or should I say the measurements that I have left to give you guys, would be the measurements for the mats for these pages, as well as, you know, our covers and the inside lining and things like that. And those, well, at least the mats anyway, I'll go ahead and take care of that in the next part of the tutorial. And then from there, once you have your base pages cut, and then you have your mats cut, and then for those of you who want to go ahead and ink your edges, you can go ahead and ink your edges. We'll go ahead and start putting it together, and then we'll do the covers, adhere it, and then we'll be able to go from there. Now, I know I mentioned before as far as the paper to use, If you're using Prima, you're going to need 2 A4 stacks and 2 of the 6x6 stacks. And that's because this is such a very paper intensive project. I unfortunately do not have another set of the A4 stacks for the stationer's desk as well as the time travelers. So I really wanted to use romance novel because you guys know that is my all-time favorite paper. But I couldn't find any paper that I had in my stash that actually went well with it or that I liked up against it. And I didn't want to use romance novel and then romance novel chapter 2 together. So what I did decide to use was this Chalk Studio by My Mind's Eye. Sorry for that glare. And then I also am using this set right here, which is called Chalkboard Paper Pack. And this is by the Chalkboard Paper Pack, and this is by We Are Memory Keepers. And this set right here was gifted to me by Audrey, who's so good out here on YouTube. So thanks so much, Audrey. It is coming in so handy. So here are the sheets on the back of this paper pack. So they're really, really pretty, nice, beautiful colors, and I think anyway, that they go really well with this stack right here. So this is what I'm going to use. Again, the next segment of this tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and cut all my mats out and get them labeled and get them together. That way I can tell you guys those. Again, for those of you who want to ink your edges, go right ahead. You know, once I cut the mats out, I am not inking my edges of this base paper because I find when I use this craft cardstock from Paper Studio, you don't have to. It's not needed. It's perfect. It's no problem. When I use the craft paper from Michaels, I found that I did need to ink my edges just because I wanted a particular look. But with Hobby Lobby, their Paper Studio brand, I don't have to with the craft cardstock. For those of you using black, obviously you don't have to, but you know, you guys do whatever you feel comfortable with. So sorry for this rambling and this long video, but I wanted to give you guys the measurements for the base pages, and then, you know, I'll take it in segments like that because hopefully it will be easier for you guys to follow, to put the album together, and we'll all be happy. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching, and I will be back soon. Bye-bye.